To do well, there it says it is live, but one does not know all the time if that little red button is in fact telling the truth. Excuse me, because I don't know. So is everybody? Hold on one second here. Got to have to turn myself down so I can hear myself thinking. You ever heard that expression? Anyway, hey, thoughts going out to all the folks up there in the panhandle of Florida. That's wow. I was just looking at the live reports, and folks there along Panama Beach is getting their butts kicked. So and as I was watching this is an amazing energy. They were saying that it has set an all-time barometric low pressure, all-time, broken all the records. And the fact that this literally came out of nowhere, it instead of doing what most hurricanes do, is that it approaches land, they weaken. Not this one. It just went on shore of almost a Cat 5. And the problem with that is going to be when that low pressure hits land, instead of being compacted as it is in an eye wall, as it hits the land, it's what they call a barometric bomb. It literally hits the ground, and this barometric imbalance goes out in all directions. And no doubt with the winds that they're getting and what's going to be coming upstream, yeah, a lot of tornadoes. This is interesting, folks. Just welcome everyone. How are you doing? Deborah Tucker, how are you doing? Deborah, let me do something right here real quick. There we go. So yeah, just welcome everyone. Let's just send some positive energy. That's intense. And isn't it odd that we name storms, and yet you will hear the, I don't know, the theologians, the educators tell us that our ancestors merely called the mythos of their pantheons of gods legends. But today, 21st century man names storms. Why? And you cannot help but not think, as we have studied not only the 7 principles, but now I would say, if you're trying to catch up here, you need to either go back into the archives and catch up, because this really is an accelerated class. It just is. Even by the topic we're going to be talking about, anger. It's amazing the diversity of viewpoints and interpretation of anger. I see anger, it's an expression of the soul. Yeah, it's emotion, absolutely. But anger, as I wrote in the description, it morphs itself. It enwraps itself as a chameleon around other emotions. Example, love interactions. There are those relationships that start out as intense relationships, and then something happens and boom. Now this happens not only, and I'm not only talking about couples, it happens with children, to parents, siblings to sibling. Anger can become so intense that it blocks everything else. And kind of what the point is. Hello, Claudette. Hello, Princess Warrior. I just want to say hello to all of the moderators and everyone else. Welcome. Again, this is an accelerated class. We're we'll continue on the anger thing, but just people have asked, and we're using 3 different books right now. We've gone through the 7 principles of the Hermetica. We are now going through the Kabbalion, and we're also going through the Hermetica. Now, this is another, well, it's all the books, and some amazing things we're going to learn today. It's really pretty far out, but getting back to this thing in anger, it has to be addressed because it's something that impacts us all. Now, there was a discussion at the very get-go when I posted this early this morning, about 7 o'clock, 5 hours ago. By the way, I had the most intense hour of meditation. Wow. It was, wow. That's all I can say. It was just wow. I mean, anyway, I digress. In the discussion as to how to get things turned around, I'm happy to say, and you can read in the comments yourself, people are seeing results. I believe it was in the comments, yes. The person wrote that they were needing transportation and merely took the blessing, the invocation, and applied it to what we've been teaching here. And they got exactly what they were needing yesterday. Now that's what can happen. Literally, that's what can happen. It can happen just that quick. If you've been practicing getting your singleness of thought, framing nothing but one thought, you should be up to your 10-minute. Try doing it for 30 minutes. Visions start happening, folks. It's quite, yeah. That's all I can say. So again, if you're here, understand that you're in the accelerated class. So we move deep here, we move profoundly, and we move with thought. So when we begin to think about manifesting those things that we need, wants are a different thing. You can advance to get anything you do want, but needs many times is the primary focus that people are looking for, and that can come in a plethora of different parts. Could be health, mental, physical. It's financial. I mean, it's covers the full gamut. And as we're going to learn today, that there is an energy that we produce subconsciously. It's, best way I know how to put it, it's always running in the background. It's always there. And what we're learning by applying to what Hermes was teaching is becoming aware of spirit, mind, understanding how we are in the elements and the cosmos, and then beginning to understand as well is that, as we're going to learn today, and wait, you really should not drop off, because the question Hermes is going to ask, are you one of the chosen ones? And we'll get into that. So, anger. It's the thief of both faith and hope. And here's why. It steals the dreams. The anger that it's in different levels, different degrees in all of us. We all have it. I think it comes with the package. I really do. And it's like when you start opening the package up. Most people just simply don't bother opening the package up. They're happy to make it a coffee table. They're happy to make it a bookshelf, anything but opening the package up. And of course, we know what happens when you start opening the package up. Yeah, you find out that you're not alone. And anger. Now, in my Christian studies, and listen, I used to preach in the prisons and preached many of a sermon myself, but here's the point. We find out that the biblical God is a God of anger. Wow. So let's think this thing out now. If we just take that, then how can it say later in the New Testament that, anger is a sin? No. If the gods are angry, and apparently they do get pissed off, it's inherent to us as well. So it's not something that we can't deny. It's not something that we have to give leave to. It is something that obviously has to be disciplined, contained, and I think for so many cases, put away. Hello, Sandra. How are you doing? Good to see you. Lisa, hello. So, and here's my concern. We have now, I guess, 30 years. Video games. Video games, by the majority part, are games of anger. Yeah. They get you angry. They've been proven. Kids at 19 dying of heart attacks. Kids in their 30s going to tournaments with adult diapers. I mean, come on, folks. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this thing out. Now, look at the current roster of politicians in our country. We no longer have civil debates. Oh, no. We've advanced beyond that. We're now in absolute opposition at any cost. And what's being ratcheted up? Anger. People just angry. I have friends in law enforcement. They're out on patrol. It's intense. Got veterans, 30 years plus on the force. Never seen any of this. No. I mean, it was the rarity to have encounters that had very violent beginnings. Not anymore. We can't even have civil discourse on ideologies anymore. Our leaders say we are to hate. They say that we're supposed to take our anger and turn it into hate. That's our leaders. You got to go, whoa, what's going on here? And then in the interim, here you and I are, and others, it's colloquially, it doesn't mean singly, that we're going, okay, we don't want any more of this. I mean, that's why I walked away from politics. Had a person recently write me that same thing that they did. She said when she walked away from it, it was like and I'm using my vernacular here, not hers. She said it was like waking up to a new day. Her anger went down, became a non-impactor on what she was needing. And she's needing a lot. Not a good situation at all. So we got to be aware of it. Again, I call it the faith and hope stealers because it steals the energy. And here's the best way that I know how to describe it. You are working on the inside, and that's a hard job to do. Many fail. Retraining the subconscious is not an easy task. It requires discipline of the spirit. And that's something that we're not used to. You know, we kind of want to push it off on something else. Typically, it's religion or an ideology, a dogma, anything but having to deal with the subject matter. And that's you. And so we're looking in this box, and spirit mind is very difficult for people. Regrettably, the millennials are finding this out. Very difficult for them to stay focused. I know from the software industry, the industry that I come out of, we knew 10 years ago that the average attention span was less than 9 seconds. I mean, and think about it. When you begin to see people offload things to a device, a machine, then you've got this, something's going to fill the void. And unfortunately, we just go to entertain ourselves, not do the hard work. And when people finally wake up to what's going on, because we're in a system that's messed up, man. This system that we're born into is it's a debt-ridden, indentured system. And all of our lives today is nothing but a mere number, whether it's for a government, whether it's for an industry. That's all we are. And religion is in that industry. Remember, religion in the United States is 100, last I was doing the numbers, back then it was $150 billion industry. $150 billion. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jesus. Anyway, so dealing with the anger. The problem is we're doing the work on the inside. And as you begin to let that out, it hits a barrier. And that barrier is so often the unrecognized anger. Someone had written, very beginning, well, no, you have to release anger because of the stress. Brother, if you've got that kind of stress in your life, anger ain't the proper release valve. You need to get and go backwards and start examining why you got that stress. Because if you're looking at anger as an alternative release, that's bad, Jack. That's bad. That's bad mojo. You're performing magic that is boomeranging you, is what it's doing. And let me just set the record straight. Each of us are practicing wizards, wizardesses, goddesses. We are. You can't go through this temporal physical plane without being a magician. It's just that most people are unconscious of it. They've channeled their power to a master magician, sometimes a master wizard, and sometimes to a master demigod. Yeah. You know, when you think about such revelations that J. Rawlings brought out in her writings, And I always thought it was interesting that she brought out kind of the obvious, right? But brought it out in such a way that the masses could adapt to it in smaller doses. And now we have a whole new generation of witches, warlocks that we introduced to the seven principles, basically. You watch Harry Potter and you put it in the reference of the seven principles, every one of them are in play. Every one of them. So I think that this energy, along with something else, has catapulted something. So getting back to the energy so we can move on. It has to be dealt with, and this is how I interpret it to be dealt with. For myself, if I'm angry at something, I have to take in what we did not read in the beginning of Franz's book, and we will, you have to make yourself both a white mirror and a black mirror. And so when I see anger that arises within me, that's a cue for me to go back and look at my magic diary and look at my list, because there's a cause for the anger. And if you can't address the cause for the anger, then you've got a lot of work to do. I suggest you spend some serious time doing some introspection and reflection. Making the list, and we'll study that, becomes very important. And so with that being said, I'm just trying to read some of this. I'm 71. Well, Carol Fisher, I happen to agree with you. It's a nasty, nasty thing, and we don't want to do that. So I tell people, turn off your television. You know, it's not worth it. Just turn it off. You have to be able to deconstruct. As I've said many times here on the show and on the show with Jeff, one must deconstruct entirely all former images of God. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult going forward. And I think the same thing with anger. I try to get back now to what the root cause of it. And so often it's me. It's something that I have to put in perspective between a white mirror and the black mirror. The idea is to become invisible to the black mirror, folks. And that's where the work starts. So anyway, my goodness. I hope everyone, by the way, it's snowing here. And I'm just loving it. Just going to tell you. So we're going to get into a section of the Hermetica. Well, thank you, Brian. May that which you have given forth be returned back to you 100-fold. That's how it works, folks. It's degrees of what we do for others. And it always comes back. Always. So I did a little thing here. I want to kind of preface before we get into that. So I want to share this with you. And of course, you have to do the legal disclaimer these days. So this is the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. So it is up there for everyone to read and for full allowance. So there you go. All right, let's rock and roll. Here's the thing that, well, when you think about it, it's far out. It really is. We are invisible. Now, I know you would say, but Wayne, I can see you in the image. I can't see y'all, but I can certainly see the writings. And anyway, we know that there is an image, a reflection. This is solid matter. Trust me, it bleeds, it hurts. It's all of the above. But if God, the all, is invisible, then that is the first thing we have to begin to get settled. Our spirits are invisible. And so I put some points here. Only in the invisible can see the invisible. The all can only be seen by spirit. Spirit is of the invisible. Therefore, only spirit can see spirit. We are spirit, thus we are of the invisible. Spirit reflects on the imagination of mind to reflect the image of God. Another way of saying it is that God is the direct reflection of the image of the mind of the spirit. There's three creations of a person. Under this new way of looking at the invisible. Spirit, which cannot be seen in the physical. Now, I know people are going to say, well, what about apparitions? That's a different magic. It's a different plane, different law taking place. In essence, spirit cannot be seen in the physical. Doubt me? Well, when you die, Jack, madam, you physically ain't going to be here no more. We ain't going to see your ass. Excuse me. I know that was cruss, but in essence, that's what happens. Soul mind, which is seen by personality. Think about this. Your personality has many different traits. And the mind, which is seen by the personality, can taint what the mind is seen. Would you agree that if a person was angry, acting in anger, that would be a totally different reaction to a person who was much more calm, much more aware of self, much more a master? Two different realities, and I can assure you, two different outcomes. And one is such an easy trap to fall into. And once it begins to take a base in the personality, then the personality begins to show the trait, anger. The body, which is the physical expression of the imagination of God, and actually, more to the point, actually, it's the expression of the mind of the cosmos. Because we are made out of the cosmos. God is not. And only the invisible can see the invisible. Now, this should really get you turned on if you really think about this. Again, we're developing the mental abilities that we all have. It's reactivating the pineal gland in most people. And for many of you, it's the activation of that third eye is coming about. And it's quite interesting how it comes about, but it does. So, as we go into this reading, here's the thing. only those who have been granted to have the vision will be able to see God. Now, this is a different take on what I had ever considered before. So allow me to get out of here, and I will shut this down. Give me 1 second, please. There we go. Okay. So I'm back. So it's interesting to think that we are, in fact, invisible beings. The spirit has no limit. The spirit can't be contained. I postulate that when we go to the next plane, whatever that plane is, we're all destined. Some are most likely destined back into this plane. Others of us, I believe we are graduating to that next one, will become much more aware of that. And here's why. I'll share something with you. Back in 1998, I was at a symposium with Bill Gates. And I remember Bill Gates made the statement. He said that the day will come when man will realize that he always had within him the ability to travel anywhere at the speed of thought. And he subsequently wrote a book on that, Business and the Speed of Thought. And that was a very profound statement, because now, nearly 21 years later, when I think about this, I realize that he was again speaking on the 7 principles. The spirit can be anywhere it wants to be at any time, and as many of us will find out, on many different planes at the same time. Now, you're a master magician, probably a wizard at that point, a demigod, when you begin to understand how you can transmutate beyond time and space. I'll have some more tea, thank you. So let's talk about something that I think is going to be exciting. I've got it pulled up here. So now this makes like I've got a hard copy, a digital copy. I went in there and bought it in Kindle so I could share this with you, because these are the exact writings of Hermes. And so you're really going to get the real impact from what is being written here. Now, this is in book 4. This is the Discourse of Hermes to Tat, and Tat is the student. This is called the mixing bowl of the monad. Since the craftsman made the whole cosmos by reasoned speech. You see, it is so interesting. The craftsman made the whole cosmos by reasoned speech. Speech cannot happen unless thought gives birth to the speech. Okay, not by hand. You should conceive of him as present, always existing, as having made all things, as the one and only, and as having crafted by his own will the things that are. So we're talking about God. Remember, the minute you say God, you've limited God. That's why we refer here on this channel, we call God the All. Because when you put God to the name, and Hermes does as well, but we know that it's really referencing the all. All right. For this is his body, neither tangible nor visible, nor measurable, nor dimensional, nor like any other body. It is not fire, nor water, nor air, nor spirit. Yet all things come from it, because he is good. It was not for himself alone that he wished to make this offering and to adorn the earth. So he sent the man below an adornment of the divine body, mortal life from life immortal. That right there ought to give you happy feet right there. Every one of you people should be dancing, because that tells you, folks, there ain't no hell waiting for you. Ain't no heaven either. Something far more grander than any of that, but I digress. And if the cosmos prevailed over living things as something ever living, the man prevailed even over the cosmos through reason and mind. The man became a spectator of God's work. He looked at it in astonishment and recognized its maker. God shared reason among all people, O Tat, but not mind, though he begrudged it to none. Grudging envy comes not from high. It forms below in the souls of people who do not possess mind. Got to stop and ask yourself, are you one of the fortunate ones that possess mind? Because by Hermes, not everyone walking around, Jack, has got mind. Okay. For what reason then did God not share mind with all of them, my father? Good question. He wanted it put between souls, my child, as a prize for them to contest. Oh, yeah. Tat asks, and where did he put it? Hermes answers, he filled a great mixing bowl with it and sent it below, appointing a herald whom he commanded to make the following proclamation to human hearts. Immerse yourself in the mixing bowl if your heart has the strength. If it believes, you will rise up again to the one who sent the mixing bowl below. If it recognizes the purpose of your coming to be. All those who heeded the proclamation and immersed themselves in mind participated in knowledge and became perfect people because they received mind. But those who missed the point of the proclamation are people of reason because they did not receive the gift of mind as well and do not know the purpose or the agents of their coming to be. These people have sensations much like those of unreasoning animals. And since their temperament is willful and angry, they feel no awe of things that deserve to be admired. Remember, folks, the sin that's going to nail most in the balance of the scale is only one: irreverence. I'm talking to you. They diverted their attention to the pleasures and appetites of their bodies, and they believe that mankind came to be for such purposes. But those who participated in the gift that comes from God, O Tat, are immortal. Rather than mortal life, one compares their deeds. For in a mind of their own, they have comprehended all, things on earth, things in heaven, and even what lies beyond heaven. Having raised themselves so far, they have seen the good, and having seen it, they have come to regard the wasting of time here below as a calamity. They have scorned every corporal and incorporeal thing. They have hastened toward the one and only. This, Tat, is the way to learn about mind, to resolve perplexities in divinity, and to understand God, for the mixing bowl is divine. Tat says, I too wish to be immersed, my father. Hermes writes, unless you first hate your body, my child, you cannot love yourself. But when you have loved yourself, you will possess mind. And if you have mind, you will also have a share in the way to learn. What do you mean by this, Father? My child, it is impossible to be engaged in both realms, the mortal and the divine, since there are two kinds of entities, corporeal and incorporeal, corresponding to mortal and divine. One is left to choose one or the other. If choice is desired, one cannot have both together when one is left to choose, but lessening the one reveals the activity of the other. Man, that's more than one mouthful right there. I mean, you think about this. So, two realms coexisting, but separated by a veil. If that isn't string theory, I don't know what is. It's string theory certainly has, I would say, have an anchor in that. There are two kinds of entities, both the seen and the unseen, corresponding to mortal and divine. One is left to choose one or the other. Now, did you catch this? If choice is desired, it's not a requirement. In fact, we're going to read here, God really doesn't care what you do. Goes on to say one cannot have both together. In other words, I guess you can't have your cake and eat it too. But by releasing those things that so easily beset us, it reveals to us the activity of the other. Choosing the stronger, then, not only has splendid consequences for the one who chooses. Okay, so there's a benefit here, in that it makes the human into a god. All right, stop the presses here. There apparently is something of immense value once the decision is made. It makes the human into a god. But it also shows reverence towards God. On the other hand, choosing the lesser has been mankind's destruction, though it was no offense to God. Did you pick up on that? No offense to God, with this single reservation. Just as processions, passing by in public cannot achieve anything of themselves, a parade, though they can be a hindrance to others, in the same way these people are only parading through the cosmos, led astray by pleasures of the body. This is deep. I mean, you think about what's being said here. And yet, with my mere 23,000 plus days on this rock, I see this. You know why I see this? I see it in myself. As I have gone from lifetime to lifetime in this lifetime. And no matter where you are on the meter, the scale called age, you'll begin to witness it yourself. Since this is sotat, what proceeds from God has been and will be available to us. May what comes from us be suited to it and not deficient. We forget that we've created many of these demons and demigods. Man has. And the evils for which we are responsible. Who chooses them instead of good things are no responsibility of God's. God's got no, it's like, hey, your decision. Do you see how many bodies we must pass through, my child? How many troops of demons, cosmic demons, connection and stellar circuits in order to hasten toward the one and only? For the good is untraversable, infinite, and unending. It is also without beginning. But to us, it seems to have a beginning, our knowledge of it. Thus, knowledge is not a beginning of the good, but it furnishes us the beginnings of the good that will be known. So let us seize this beginning and travel with all speed. For the path is very crooked that leaves familiar things of the present to return to primordial things of old. Visible things delight us, but the invisible cause mistrust. That's so freaking profound. We trust the visible, and that is more deception. Can be more deceiving. Anyone ever see Sigmund and Freud, David Copperfield? A great magician will just dazzle you to the uninitiated. But the invisible causes mistrust. Bad things are the more open to sight, but the good is invisible to what can be seen. For the good has neither shape nor outline. This is why it is like itself, but unlike all others. For the bodiless cannot be visible to body. This is the difference between like and unlike, and the deficiency in unlike with respect to like. The law of polarity, folks. The monad, because it is the beginning and root of all things, is in them all as root and beginning. Without a beginning, there is nothing. And a beginning comes from nothing except itself, if it is the beginning of other things. Because it is a beginning, then the monad contains every number, is contained by none, and generates every number without being generated by any other number. But everything is generated, is imperfect and divisible, subject to increase and decrease. None of this happens to what is perfect. And what can be increased takes its increase from the monad, but is defeated by its own weakness, no longer able to make room for the monad. I actually call that the ether. Such then, Tat, is God's image, as best as I have been able to sketch it for you. If your vision of it is sharp, and you understand it with the eyes of your heart, believe me, child, you shall discover the road that leads above, or rather, the image itself will show you the way. For the vision of it has a special property. It takes hold of those who have had the vision and draws them up, just as the magnet stone draws iron, so they say. I'm going to stop there. Powerful stuff, isn't it? Wow. I was up late last night reading this again. I've read it, I don't know, this is probably the 10th time now. Every time I read it, it just, it's like the light show's going off. There's answers here. These are answers that transcend even the question. If they taught this from the pulpits, every religion would die almost overnight. If they taught this as a political component, politics would cease to exist. Because we won't need it. Why? Enlightenment would come. A new dawn would be upon us, which I think very well may be happening just for the fact that we're discussing this, that we're reading sacred text, regardless of how old it is. It's obviously thousands of years old. And unless you can show me you're older than 1,000 years, then 2,000 years, 3,000 years, this is great wisdom. This is wisdom that I wish I had been exposed to decades ago. It would change your life. It will change your life. The invocation for the favor, the cleansing, came from this same source. I mean, I was guided to write it. It works. Works extremely well. But it works because it's in balance with the 7 principles. And that should be a clue right there as you begin to practice your own magic, developing your own magic. That should be the scale that you weigh it on. And the other part of that scale should be a feather. You know, this is how we begin to change. We call favor upon those who oppress us. We call favor on those who scorn us. The Pope today, and now let me just say, it was not the Pope. It is a bishop who is now forming local exorcism groups because dealing in Reiki and other New Age ideas are opening doors for demons. Freaking 10,000 years of development, and this is what we still get? The same trash that's been spoken for thousands of years? The same repressive voice? No. And politics, folks, is the same way. Politics and religion are kissing cousins. They're incestuous with each other. They feed off of each other. This is why we have to break it. And when people are exposed to this, and more are, they're finding the same answers. Why didn't someone teach us this? Why didn't someone tell us about this? If I'd only known, my anger goes away. I am renewed in life. I look out the door in awe. I see the elements. I give praise. It's called reverence. Yeah. Whew. I get excited about this and I get passionate about it because this sets us free. And I hope it continues to spread. And every channel that's out there, may every person give their own interpretation to what they see. We add it. And may we be the fortunate few that have been granted the vision. Think about that, folks. Are you seeing visions? Are you experiencing the supernatural? You see, that's why the charismatic movement was so intoxicating. Was that because it brought back the supernatural into the church? The gifts of the Spirit were being manifested. Not anymore. But that should tell you something. Your life should be a life of the supernatural. You should start beginning to learn to cast your own spells. Friday night, have Anja returning. Got Debbie Tucker coming on. And Deborah is a true alchemist. We're going to start talking about how you can begin to make your own magic. Working with Anja and others where we can begin to combine essential oils, different herbs, different spices. These are all the things. And you know what? Let me just throw this into the equation before the hour ends here. If you go back and read the book of Leviticus and you read what the holy utensils were in the showbread in the Holy of Holies, what did they have in there, folks? A special incense made of what? Frankincense, myrrh, I think cloves was in there. Think about this. It invoked the Spirit. This is not the occult. That's a word that's been labeled. And when are we going to stop being racist? Exactly. Anyone who has a negative opinion about the occult is a racist. You're a racist because you are opposed to knowledge. We got to stop it. We don't want to be bigots either. Inflicting our opinions and our beliefs on others, that's not the road either. Yeah, it's brutal. But suck it up, cupcake. This is how you grow. You know what? As Q told Picard, the universe holds wonders beyond imagination. Sensations that would satiate the most perverse. Wonders that would absolutely be beyond description. But you're going to get a bloody nose once in a while. I get them, you get them, but this is how we learn. You know, as children. I remember my stepmother. Boy, this is invoking a memory. We were poor. Anyway, we had a gas stove. That actually served as the heat for the house, to be honest with you. And my stepsister and I got caught playing with matches. After the experience that we went after that, never had a problem with it. Never again. So it works. Bloody nose builds character. It does. And that's what we all need. We need characters, man. We're getting prepared to be gods. We got to stop this fussing and fighting amongst ourselves. You know, we just found out that, and I like what Hermes said, to God, hey, You made the decision. I got no responsibility on it. And we know that if you make the right effort and get there, it's a prize. It's God says I wanted to make it a contest between the soul. Wow. I'm all in. All right, folks. Be good to yourselves. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you all for being in here. This is the enclave of free thinkers. There's no doubt about it. We embrace all beliefs, and we embrace, the individuality. It's all right. There needs to be no division. So that's the way I look at it. All right. Yeah, I did kind of bring it in there, Brad, didn't I? I do that. It's because I make notes. All right. You're all great people. Thank you for enhancing my journey. I hope I've done your journey as well. We'll meet again tomorrow. And in there, love yourself. By the way, I'll finish this out. So often we've heard people say, well, that person's just in love with themselves, because, we've all run into those people because they're us, either seen or unseen. But here's the thing. It's not that that person is so in love with themselves. It's because they self-loathe themselves. And that's so often what we see in those type of personalities. So it's something for all of us to think about. We're all evolving. Let's continue. All right, folks, see you again tomorrow. Be good to yourselves. I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.